Hello, Gym+Coffee community. How are you getting on? Hope all is going well. I wanted to hop on here to give you a quick update of how Marathon Mind is going for some of you who are doing it and some of you who may be still interested in doing it. It's not too late. So we have just gone through the first 4 weeks of training with over 4,500 people, and of course our 4 individuals, Danny, Phelan, Michelle and Marion. And the first 4 weeks of training is usually quite hard because you're just getting going again, you're getting the body moving again, and sometimes the body wants to do it, sometimes it doesn't. I think the weather's getting a little bit better, which has helped, and a lot of people are finding the kind of longer runs, which at this point we're up to about 9 kilometers, a little bit difficult, and they are difficult. They're challenges if you haven't ran those distances before. But I wanted to just hop on here to go through a few things about it, because we get a lot of questions coming into our social media page, and if you don't follow it, it's Marathon Mind Official on Instagram and Facebook, and that's where all the kind of interaction will happen. And then of course the Where's My Mind podcast will have the podcast once a month, where we'll talk to the individuals and the experts in more detail in podcast form. But I wanted to give you kind of insight of what types of questions were being asked in certain areas and to kind of give you some of the answers that the coaches have kind of come up with. The first thing people are saying is a lot of them are running by heart rate. They might have Fitbits, Garmin's or whatever, and they're finding that the heart rate is really high when they're running. One of the things that you have to do around marathon training is to slow it down, and in some cases walk. In many cases walk, or jog, or walk and jog and run. In my case, for example, the minute I run, my heart rate skyrockets to like 160, 170. Now that is not where you want to be as a marathon runner, especially in training, because we're moving into a different energy system. So there's 2 energy systems. There's your aerobic system and your anaerobic system. So for those of you who done CrossFit and HIIT training and all that kind of training that you might do in a gym, that is anaerobic, and it'll get you very fit. It'll probably get you quite, lean, and it is really good to do. That type of intense training is quite enjoyable. It's fast, you get it out of the way. That is not marathon training. Marathon training is training a different system, the aerobic system. And to train the aerobic system, you don't want to be up in that high heart rate area. You want to be kind of averaging on each run 140, 150 max. And a lot of people are saying when they go out, their heart rate goes up and they can't get it down. Then you just walk and learn that discipline of walking, because you want to make sure that the body is conditioned and able to take that type of training. And as the miles go up, you'll start to realize that the heart rate starts to be less variable. You'll start to get a bit more fixed. Like even now, because I'm a bit further on in the marathon training, I'm up to kind of 28, 30 kilometers now. My heart rate is quite stable. So I'll go out, it'll go high, and then it'll come back down again. And then it will stay there like 140 for the run if I keep it slow. So the big thing I'll say around the training is park the ego. There really isn't much room for ego in marathon training, especially at the start when you're kind of being tamed a little bit by your body, because you're trying to find out what works for it and what doesn't work for it. And if you need to walk. Honestly, we're not trying to qualify for the Olympics here. We need to step back that side of things. This is a 9-month process. And for those of you who haven't joined yet and you're still kind of hemming and hawing whether you'd like to do it, it is definitely not too late. You can jump in and jump on board now and probably catch up with us pretty quickly. On training as well, it's also important to point out that if you miss a session, do not try to catch up. So if you miss your 5K walk or run on a Wednesday, don't throw it in on a Thursday. That is when injuries start to happen because you overload the body. So have the discipline of just moving on. So each week, Rob Heffernan, our coach, will have 2 key sessions. You really just have to try and get those key sessions in. They're the important ones, because that's as you're building your distance, and as we move on, you'll start building your speed. So of the key sessions, they're usually Monday or Tuesday, and then your long run at the weekend. But if you haven't ran 8, 9, 10 kilometers yet, that's fine. You can walk it. This is the thing. And for the marathon itself that we're going to do, and that'll be the 2nd week in November, and details will follow, there's no time limit, so you can walk the bloody thing if you want. It's still a marathon. You're still having to go 42 kilometers, so it's still a marathon. You can jog it, run it. We're best advising, we don't want seasoned marathon runners for this. We want this to be for people who've never done one, and a kind of a space where they feel comfortable to do that. On nutrition, Sharon has said that one of the big things around it is that a lot of us probably aren't eating enough. A lot, when you're doing your longer runs, you have to make sure you're getting your carbohydrates into you. And whatever happened in this mad world of ours, there's an awful lot of misinformation around food. and a lot of diets and a lot of things that kind of cut out major food groups. And you can't do that with marathon training. You know, if you want to do that kind of pure protein training to get ripped in a gym, that's grand, but it ain't going to serve you in a marathon. And in fact, you'll lose any muscle that you might have, or any kind of lean muscle, because it'll start eating itself. You need to feed and fuel the body, so you need to get those carbohydrates in. And also with nutrition, you need to kind of explore your own body and your own needs. Some people have asked questions, you know, can I eat before my long run in the morning, or breakfast? Can I, like, when do I have to eat? You eat when it suits you. But the key to a few things that Sharon wanted me to say is, the minute you come in from one of your runs, you need to eat a carbohydrate source and a protein source within half an hour, because your glycogen levels drop a lot and you need to get them kind of back up very quickly, or else they take a lot longer to come back up. So a banana, 2 bananas, a bagel, Lucozade Sport, about 50 grams of carbohydrates is usually what you want to get into your body. And of course, water and hydration, especially as it gets a little bit warmer. This isn't rocket science, and the key to all this stuff is sometimes, because there's so much information online, we can really confuse ourselves, and we seek out and Google information on everything. It really is not rocket science. You need to listen to the body, which brings me to the next point, which is the mindfulness training. And if you go on niallbreslin.com, all these programs are there. For the mindfulness training, the first month is just building that relationship between body and mind again. And here's the thing, the modern world has really pulled that relationship apart. We don't really listen to ourselves anymore. We kind of wait for other people or other things to tell us if we're fit or we're getting enough sleep. Apps on your phone to tell us how much sleep we're getting. Well, like, when did that happen? You know what I mean? These are things that we need to listen to ourselves. Our body's been with us from day one and knows more about us than anybody else. You need to learn to listen to it, and that's what the body scan meditation's for. And that is a crucial part of this training program, because as this goes on, I am telling you straight up, it's the mind that will give up on you before the body. And we need to make sure we keep strengthening this mind aspect. And the mindfulness element of it is, for me, one of the most important. And of course I would say that, but it served me the best throughout my training for endurance sport, is knowing how to navigate my mind, and knowing that in training and in races you get waves, and those waves come and go. Sometimes those waves are nice and gentle, and some of those waves pull you under, but you always come back up. That is what endurance training is. It's tough, and it is a battle of the mind. It really is. When it comes down to it, it's the mind that starts rebelling on you. So I'm really passionate about teaching that side of things and building the mindfulness practice, and that will get more and more prevalent as we go on. On the psychology side with Louise, she's going to do a video of her own and do some lives as well, and she's dealing with the four guys throughout their journey, which you would have heard in the podcast. Their journeys are incredible, and with Marion, she's in grieving process. You have Michelle, who came through very serious illness. Danny, who lost his brother and his father to suicide. And Phelim, who's gone through his own kind of journey with his mental health. These are all individuals, and their therapeutic process with Louise is theirs and theirs only. No one else needs to know. It's their space. But generally, from a psychological point of view, what we're noticing with a lot of people who are training, of the 4,500 people, a lot of people were initially doubting themselves, but are very quickly coming to terms that I might be able to do this. And these are all normal doubts that we have and fears that we have. And this is the thing about it is like, we also have this outrageous fear to take stuff on, because we feel we always have to follow through, or we have to do it, or if you don't do it, we're failures. You're not. The failure is not trying, and just give this a shot. Like, if it's shit and you hate it, just don't do it anymore. You know, it's not going to hurt you. Get out on the road and go for a walk and a run. So that to me is like, even this whole project for me was, you know, some people have said to me, what if it doesn't work? I'm like, what if it doesn't work? You know, why do we keep dictating our entire life around what will guarantee work all the time? It's just not a great way to be. And I think as individuals, we've learned this year that maybe it's a good time to start just taking pot shots at things and having a chance and doing stuff. Like life is short enough. So give it a shot. Try it. There's going to be ups and downs here, just like life, and that's what endurance sport is. Psychology is such a crucial part of this, and what Louise is going to coach over this 9 months isn't resilience. I don't like the word resilience. Resilience kind of is a bit binary. It's like either you have it or you don't. It feels quite rigid. And what we want to teach is psychological flexibility, the ability to bend and move with the shit. The inevitable shit days that we experience and the good days, being able to move with them and not break. And that's psychological flexibility. And that's something that me, Louise, and Michael are incredibly passionate about. Michael, who's our neuroscientist, also did EEGs, which is basically essentially brain mapping activity of our 4 individuals' brains and mine. And it was really interesting. Like, we kind of found what we thought we'd find with considering the things that the guys are going through. And in my case, I did an EEG, and I did it for 5 minutes with no meditation. And I was told I have an incredibly hypervigilant brain, which means I'm very anxious, which I didn't need to EEG to be told. I know I have a hypervigilant mind. I like my mind. It's creative, it moves, it's dynamic, but at times I needed to calm the effect down, which is where meditation comes in. So I then did it for 5 minutes with mindfulness meditation, and I meditated, and I dropped into a meditation, and I'm quite experienced meditator, so it was quite easy for me to do. And the difference in my brain activity was pretty dramatic. Incredibly dramatic, and that's psychological flexibility. So the ability to know I have a hypervigilant mind or brain, but also the ability to know I can calm it down. And that's all we're trying to do here. We're not trying to change people into better versions of themselves. You're grand as you are. That's the thing. And the wellness industry has created this kind of narrative around this kind of better versions of yourself. And I feel sometimes that isn't a great message to say to people. Maybe people are just absolutely rocking as they are. They just need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of support to recognize that. And that is what this Marathon Mind project is. And I really hope you guys in the Gym+Coffee community can get involved. Even if you don't want to do the marathon, get involved in the psychology and mindfulness side of it. If not, maybe even supporting the people that are doing it. It's a big thing for people to do. And you know, what's happened this year is it's been a very difficult, frustrating, angry, upsetting, anxiety-inducing year. And one of the main reasons I want to do this as well is, like, we can't keep fragmenting. We can't keep pulling each other limb from limb on Twitters and social medias. We need to create projects that build communities and bring people together and not keep fragmenting them, because that is not sustainable in any society. And it's not sustainable, especially here. It's just not our style. And that is why we're doing this type of stuff, because the alternative isn't really worth it. So I hope you're enjoying it. As I said, feel free to join us on any part of it. Whatever you want to do, get involved. And once again, thanks a million, Gym+Coffee, for supporting it, because not everybody did stand up to support it. And like me taking a chance on this and everyone else taking a chance on it in terms of the individuals doing it, they took a chance on it too. And that's how this stuff works. So anyway, hope you're doing okay. Hopefully this is nearly done and we're getting through it, and everyone's getting vaccinated soon and we can actually live a normal life again. Have a good one.
Where is my mind?